Hi, and welcome to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast presented by Wolf Precision Incorporated, where we learn about and share long range shooting and custom rifle building. I am your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. Hi, and welcome to episode 45 of Wolf Precision's Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. In this episode, we are going to be discussing rifle scopes and, more importantly, talking a little bit about affordable rifle scopes. I'll give you an update on the long-range shooting schools and some exciting things we have going on this year and how we're dealing with the coronavirus, as well as some updates for the Extraordinary Guide to Accuracy video series. So without further ado, here we go. So we had a customer email us about some affordable scopes. The backstory to the question was, in 2020, we are allowing students to bring their own rifles as a way to make students more comfortable shooting their own equipment. Of course, we have the school rifles and they're all cleaned and everything else, but as long as they're suppressed or they rent a suppressor here, because it still is a 100% suppressed class, they can bring their own rifles. And so the customer had emailed and purchased, a Ruger Precision rifle or something along that lines, and was like, hey, I really do want to try to get a good scope, but, I'm trying not to break the bank, and I understand, all the different scopes that are out there, but what I'm looking for is just a great quality scope. And to even go one step further, he was even questioning whether or not he could attend the shooting school, shooting a rifle of that quality. So I'm sort of going to address this in two areas. Back in our earlier podcast, when it comes to learning the art of long-range shooting, we tell guys all the time, and we even tell them here at the school, that you can buy a really good factory rifle now and go out and enjoy the art of long-range shooting. Even though I build custom rifles here, I'm not, nor was I ever, nor did I ever say that you have to have a $6,000 custom rifle to go out and enjoy the art of long-range shooting. And that's not true at all. One of my first rifles probably cost, a little over $100. One of my first rifles that I reloaded for, I know cost about $230. One of my first long-range rifles was a Savage, and it cost me $550. And the scope that I put on it probably cost $6. And I used to go out and compete in tactical matches with it. So, it's in today's age, with the quality of firearms that are out there in manufacturing, you can get a decent rifle. And it doesn't have to be a quarter-minute or half-minute gun to get into or start learning the art of long-range shooting. If it's capable of shooting a minute of angle, that means it's capable of shooting at, a 10-plus inch group at 1,000 yards, and that's pretty doable. So you should shoot the rifle first, before you bring it to the school. That's just, what we tell students is make sure you proof it to make sure it's a decent shooting rifle before you bring it. We've had students show up in the past with factory rifles that were just all over the place, and, they never tested it before the school. So we try to cut that off before it even starts to become a problem. Say, look, get out and shoot it a little bit. Just make sure that it's okay accuracy-wise. If it can hold a minute, it's going to be fine here at the school. And then he was asking about scopes. And that led into the other part of his question was, I need a good scope. I want one that's going to track and that's going to work, that's got good glass. But I don't want to spend $2,000 or $3,000 on a Mark V or a Collis or, and I thought that was a great question. So the Leopold series VX3Is or the VX6s, they're fantastic scopes. They track great. They're the old VX3. I shot a Vari X3 for a decade. I have a Vari X2 with target knobs that has got to be close to 20 years old. I don't know how old the scope is. It has been on countless rifles. It's a Vari X2 6 to 18 with target knobs. Of course, it's not first focal plane. It is in minutes. It does not have a reticle, and I have killed hundreds and hundreds of animals with it, varmints and critters and such alike. It now sits on one of my 22 long rifles, and with probably going out squirrels. But I use it here at the school all the time as a great demonstration of here's a scope that when I bought it new cost $595, and when you turn the gearing, you can hear the gearing clicking, for adjusting for your minutes with it. It's a good quality solid scope. So if you need a good quality scope, and this is just me speaking from the experiences that we've had here, is I would probably straight out of the gate wouldn't look anywhere else than at the line of Leupold scopes that they make. And I would probably focus really hard on like the Varix 3i or the LRI, I believe they call it, 4.5 to 14 or 6.5 to 20, 5 to 25. The 4.5 to 14 has a retail of $974, and if you go out, you can find it on sale for maybe $795 somewhere. They are good scopes. Now, they're not first focal plane, of course, and they might not have a reticle, and they might have, minute or mil knobs. You have to look through it and see what options are available. But then they also make, I believe, the LRI version, which is non-first focal and first focal plane. And we've had them here at the school, and we actually have customers that actually shoot them, and they are good scopes. And they retail from anywhere from like $895 to $1295 for first focal plane. A 30 millimeter tube, so it's not a 35 or 34 millimeter tube, but it's plenty enough travel to get you out to 1,000 yards. We've had them here at the school, and we have several customers that shoot them on a regular basis. And I've never heard any of them come back and say that they've had any issues with them or they weren't tracking properly. I'm sure they would have called or said something and through the passings at the school that I had that scope, but I had to send it back. But I've never heard a word back. And on top of that, they're made here in the USA, which I think is huge. Everybody, I think would agree that we got to start supporting our home-based businesses more and more. And they've got a warranty for life. And I can attest that their customer service is, fantastic. I mean, I've used it myself. I had a scope that was heavily abused. They were talking like 15 years ago. It was on multiple rifles. It had been dropped. It was a truck scope. I mean, it has taken a beating, literally, and it stopped tracking. Something happened mechanically with it, but I will say that it may have been my own fault because the rifle had fallen over and took a direct hit on, it was a heavy barreled rifle on the top, knob. So it could have been that drop that finally did it in, and I sent it to Leupold. They fixed it, sent it right back. I mean, it was fantastic, and I never had any problems with it since. So. And that was an old Varix 3 6.5 to 20 is what we shot. We shot woodchucks with those scopes, the Varix 3 models and lines of 5.5 to 25 and the 6.5 to 20 long before the Mark IVs come out. And we shot woodchucks out to, 1,000 yards with those. So, they're fantastic tools. And, I remember back in the day when $200 or $300 was a lot for a scope. I mean, growing up, you work 3 jobs, young family, doing everything you can do to make ends meet, and so the shooting funds are low. Your other priorities take priority. So you get a $200 or $300 scope, and you're happy with it. But in today's market, if you were really looking for a good scope, but really not trying to break the bank, I would be looking at the Leupold line, and specifically, I'd be looking at the LRIs or the Varix 3Is. The other thing I want to bring up, going back to the rifle part, is we've seen countless numbers of different factory rifles come through the school over the years, and some have done really well. It's a numbers game. Every once in a while, a bad one gets through, and some factory rifles have come through and just had problems. They just were, for whatever reason, they stopped shooting or just wouldn't group, or the scope wouldn't stay on paper because they weren't sure what scope to buy. Now, what we do to address that here at the school is, our rental rifles are $99 a day plus your ammo, and it includes a suppressor on the rifle. So we just get a school rifle out, we hand it to you, and so you can enjoy and finish the class and have fun and not be the guy sitting on the sideline going, well, no, my rifle just totally fell apart, and here I am, 500 miles away from home, sitting in a shooting school and nothing to shoot. So we try to cover that by making sure that we have a school rifle there for everybody in case anything breaks down. And I will tell you the statistics. 12 years we've been doing this, and on average, we lose probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 33% of the rifles brought by customers coming here to the school go down for one reason or the other. And I know that number sounds fascinatingly high. And Daryl Thom and his son came out to join us in South Dakota where we taught a class. And I was telling Daryl, he's asking about the number of rifles that go down. And we had been building more school rifles at the time to try to have rifles there for guys to rent if they go down. And I was telling him statistically what we thought the number was. And we show up in South Dakota, and first day of class, 2 rifles go down. And they can go down for any reason, too. I'm not saying that they all just stop shooting. That's not it. We've had a rifle, for example, where the rings sheared off for whatever reason on top. And this is one of those rifles where the rings mounted directly to the action, and they must have had stress on them or somebody over-torqued them. But the scope sort of came loose in the front, was shooting all over the place, couldn't figure out what's going on. And here, one of the screws had sheared off, and the other one wasn't holding real well. So that went down. We had another guy lose an action screw. So it literally fell out somewhere in transition. So he was shooting it for a day, and it was doing good. And then the action screw must have loosened up. Second day started falling apart right at the end of the day. And when he come back the next day, and it really fell apart, the accuracy did, and we turned the rifle over, and I'm like, well, something's not right here. And I look in, and the action screw's missing. Again, not one of our custom rifles, but we had scopes lock up, solid as a drum on the line. We've had scopes stop tracking, ammunition not performing well. So the list goes on and on. It's not just that they stop shooting, but a rifle is an entire system. So if anything in a system goes down, it can cause all kinds of problems and sometimes just bring everything to a screeching halt. The other thing I wanted to bring up was, I know we were getting ready to start the video series, and we are still planning on doing and completing that series of the Extraordinary Guide to Accuracy, but this sort of ties into the shooting school. Well, thanks to coronavirus 19 or whatever they want to call it, and shutting the state of Pennsylvania down, has put us in a position to where the school is putting up a building on our firing line to teach the classes and to shoot from inside. So we have a nice, comfortable area to shoot from. If we get really bad inclement weather, we can start earlier in the year and shoot later in the year. This is something that's been on our bucket list to do for a while. And with the facility that we used to rent for holding the conference rooms, or the conference rooms we would rent to hold the classes, well, that whole facility, the hotel's still working, but all the conference rooms by law have to be closed. And so we decided to scramble. This is something we've been planning to do for a while. And so for the last couple of weeks, we've been working on getting a 12 by 40 foot building put up on our firing line that we will be teaching the class out of and actually enjoy shooting from while inclement weather is happening. So that's going to be really, really awesome. So that's what we've been working on hard the last 2 weeks here. We did cut the classes to 4 students in a class to give everybody plenty of room. The building's 40 feet long. Everybody has a 6-foot door they're going to shoot out of, which is fantastic. The classes, we did add several for the year to accommodate the students we had classes of 8 already booked, and we were able to forward some of them into some of the smaller classes to get the class size down to 4. And so we had to add a bunch of classes. And then what we did is being that the classes were going to be much smaller and we're going to be on the range from start to finish, we save about 2 hours or 2.5 hours of lunch and transitioning to the firing line from the conference room, as well as all the time it takes for everybody to unload their vehicle and get everything down the line and start shooting for the day. We're able to basically teach the 3-day shooting school now in 2 days. And so you'll be able to come through. You don't have to take that much time off work. We can accomplish everything that we want to accomplish now in 2, simply because we have half the students there, which is really, really nice. I'm looking forward to that. And because we're teaching the whole thing on the line, we don't have any wasted time and, leaving for lunch or traveling to the range, because the range was about a half an hour drive from Seven Springs. And so we would dismiss everybody from the conference room at 11 and tell everybody, hey, let's meet back here at about 12:15. And of course, somebody's always running a little bit late. And then until we get to the range, rally and carpool out to the range. It's now 1 o'clock. So everybody gets all their cars unloaded and everything's on the firing line. And we're actually ready to shoot. It's 1:30. And so we're losing that 2.5 hours where it's such a waste of time. And the fact that we still had 8 students meant that we needed that third day to cover all the subjects. So really excited. So we have a bunch of new dates put up, 4 students in a class. We already have people registering, so I was really surprised this morning that we had 3 people register first thing this morning for the 2-day classes. We'll have the dates updated sometime tomorrow with how many slots we have left, but it seems like they're filling up pretty quick, so I'm excited for all of that. The other thing that we offered for 2020 is for private groups. Again, this is all thanks to Mr. COVID-19. So we have some small groups that would rather not come with strangers, that, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 people in a group, that they can come in for a private class, and we can make it a 1-day class or a full 2-day class. And all that information is on our website as well. So we're doing everything that we can to still offer the long-range shooting school and do it in a way that everybody's comfortable and safe. We did have a couple of students that have some pre-existing conditions that he even asked if they could just do a private one-on-one class, and we have actually scheduled several of those as well. So if you have a pre-existing condition, I understand how this could be a really big concern, and so we're just going to do it one-on-one. I'm going to take them out to the range, and we're going to spend 1 or 2 days working on firearms and enjoying the art of long-range shooting. The other thing I want to just touch base on real quick, and this may be just a little off topic, but it should be fun. So I've had lots of knee surgeries over the years. I'm almost 50 now, and had a really great run at military and law enforcement and all the other jobs in those fields that I've had and enjoyed. But they do take their toll on you, and accidents happen. And so I've had 3 major right knee surgeries, and it really got me thinking about the mobility. So going back to the range is sort of where the story's coming from. So bear with me for a minute. We have targets in 3 different directions, and the targets, can be 700-800 yards, in either direction for me to walk to. It is a working farm. So come spring, when all the crops are planted, I have to physically walk out and repair and fix and paint and work on all the steel. And there's 3 different lines. And, till I'm said and done, it's probably walking a good, sometimes 3 miles, and carrying all the equipment and taking the time to fix and repair. So it takes just forever. And we were talking about maybe a golf cart or 4-wheeler, but we can't use those there because they do too much damage to the fields. And then it gives other people that see it, thinking they can ride their 4-wheelers or other things there, and it tears up the farm. So we didn't want to do that. And so we were at the Great American Outdoor Show this year, and there was an e-bike company called Bakcou, Bakcou, and they had said that they had the #1 selling fat tire hunting bike for the last 2 years, and it got me thinking, because I seen them driving around them. I said, "Wow, that looks really cool and a lot of fun." And so I talked to the landowner and said, "Hey, these things have trailers." I said, "I never really thought about it," and I thought, would you mind if I bought this electric fat bike, I guess, a hunting bike with a trailer, and used that to run back and forth to all the steel and fix and repair things, and just save some wear and tear on my poor knees? And he was like, "Oh, no, have at it." Well, so I started talking with the company some more and doing a lot more research. And I have to say, I am super excited about getting one here. And we're so excited about it that we actually became an authorized dealer for the company. So we have several of these electric fat tire hunting mountain bikes coming. Some of them can have a range of up to 40 to 60 miles. It's crazy. And, the more I learned about them, the more I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many people out there that, and let's face it, the hunting crowd, the big game crowd, even the varmint hunting crowd here in Pennsylvania, there's not 12-year-olds running around all over these farms with 22 long rifles anymore. I mean, it's guys like myself and my friend Rich that have more gray than any other color, on their faces and in their hair, that are out here doing this stupid stuff in July weather, walking miles and miles and miles. And the one thing that really got me thinking about it was, I've done some hunts out west with people that have, let's face it, a lot of us work jobs that aren't very physical, and not taking anything away from this, but, we don't get a chance. We're not, a lot of us aren't outdoor creatures anymore. We don't spend a lot of time exercising and getting in shape, at least as not as much as we'd want to. And then as you get older, it gets harder because your time gets filled with so many other things. And so we've seen it. We went out on a hunt in Idaho, and you paid for this hunt. You're not in really great shape. You got to walk 6 miles back into where we're going to hunt, and you're going. And there's no motorized vehicles. And I did it for 10 days, and I watched one of the guys with us. He lost like 20 pounds, and he actually didn't look well a couple of the days, and he would just keep pushing through. And so how many guys that are our age, or older, in their 60s and 70s, that are still out there hiking this stuff like maniacs and then packing out the elk on their backs? Well, now you've got this tool. The more I learned about it was these are level 1 and level 2 mountain bikes, and they're pedal assist. You can run them with just a motor, but typically speaking, you pedal a little bit and help take up some of the energy and not completely destroy the energy that the bike has. But literally, they have several different types of trailers, and of course, they're 4.5-inch wide tires that they run over bumps and logs easier, or the terrain that we're on when we're hunting, it handles it sort of like a mountain bike. So it can get you back that 6 miles with a lot less stress, more efficiently, quietly. You're not scaring anything. And then allow you to enjoy your hunt. And if you do get something while you're 6 miles back in there, you can get it back out. And what I learned is there's a big push for these to make them a lot more illegal. Now, look, I know some guys are going to be like, well, there should be no motorized vehicles in the national parks and and I get that. You're trying to preserve the area, and I'm not trying to tread on that. But they do allow mountain bikes in here, and the rule was as long as they're under 1 horsepower or 750 watts, they're not considered motorized. And so I look at it this way. The older generation is the ones that are still taking up the torch in hunting. And some cases, a lot older generation. Take Pennsylvania, for example. There are people that die every year, even in our state, that have a heart attack the first day or second day or third day of deer season and die in the woods because they're not used to going out and exerting that much strenuous exercise, getting in and out of these different areas that they have to walk to. And so Pennsylvania State Game Commission, I believe on July 1st now, I think this vote was supposed to happen a couple weeks ago, but it got pushed back thanks to this COVID-19. But they're on July 1st, I think, going to vote to legalize level 1 and 2 mountain bikes that have that e-assist to be used in the state game lands. They're already legal in the state forest. They're legal in national parks. They're legal in national. I mean, there's so many areas now that, if you rode in by horseback, you could get deep into and get away from the crowds. But unless you had that guide or that horse, you were walking. And I just see it really opening up and just, I don't want to say making it easier, because hunting is really hard work. I mean, anytime I've gone out hunting all day, I come home exhausted. But if you think about the older generation and saying, hey, they can get back there a lot safer, they can get home safer. If they harvest a big animal, they can take it out in pieces easier without having to either hang it from trees and make 7 trips in and out, or call 5 people to come in and help them pull it out. And I know that's the fun of it all, but for example, I was out there with my uncle, and he passed up a really, really pretty bear. It wasn't big, but it was pretty. I thought, man, if I had the opportunity, I probably would have taken it. And he said, we're so far back in here, because I asked him, why didn't you take that? And he goes, we're so far back in here, there's just no way I wanted to deal with all the work of getting it out. And I thought, I look back at that and I thought, well, if we had one of these here to where we could harvest the animal and at least taken some of the effort down a notch or two to get it out safely. Think about emergencies. There's so many other things I think that this is a win-win for the hunters. And it might not be everybody's cup of tea. I sort of get that. But for the guy that wants to go in and camp, in other words, take his tent and all of his equipment in with him, get way back in there, we were in the Panhandle of Idaho, where you really were back in there in the middle of nowhere. Well, you could go back in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 miles, set your camp up, and then go hunting from there. But get all your gear in there easily, safely. Take what you really do need. You're not taking extra of this or extra that because you can't carry it all. And then what do you do when you get back in there and you have all of your camping stuff and now you've killed an elk? Well, now you've got 7 trips on your back to get not only just all your camping gear out, but then try to get that animal out before the meat spoils, if the weather's warm, before the bears get it or something else decides to tear into it while you're lugging these portions, miles and miles back to your vehicle. So anyway, I guess for me, I originally was looking at these just because I thought it was a great utility tool that wasn't a four-wheeler, that wasn't going to tear up the property, that I could throw a couple of things in the little trailer behind me or maybe on the bike rack behind me, my tools and paint. And I could make easy work of going back in and taking care of the work that I need to do in a little bit more of an efficient manner. But then the more I kept researching it and reading it, and I love riding bikes anyway, so from motorcycles to bikes, it doesn't matter. If it's got two wheels, I like to go. And the more I kept reading it, the more I was like, wow, I never really thought about it. That, wow, I never thought you could do that. Wow, if we would have had that in Idaho, that would have been awesome. I mean, we had one of my uncles who was pretty sick. He has some all kinds of lung issues, and the only thing he could do is walk, a quarter or half a mile from camp. And so basically the entire hunt, my poor uncle was sort of stuck being camp cook because he wasn't healthy enough to get back in there at all. And so I thought in his case, maybe he could have went back a mile or two. And if he would have got something, he could have probably got it back out under power. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I just want to throw that out there. If you get a chance, check them out. We are an official, authorized dealer, and we're excited about that. They are fantastic pieces of equipment. If you come to the shooting school here and you want to ride one, we'll have them here. We'll give you a little demo ride. You can buzz around on the property. So if you get a chance, check them out online. And we want to throw it out there that, we really think they're probably the best quality bike that's being made to date. And for any of you listeners out there that have an interest in purchasing one, we are going to offer free shipping to your location if you decide you'd like to buy one. Love to help you. Just give us a call here at the shop and we'll see if we can get you hooked up from there. But anyway, excited to have them on and excited to be an authorized dealer. I think that's pretty cool. The Extraordinary Guide to Accuracy, the video series that we've been working on, of course, I just want to give a quick update. So we've had a lot of people signing up for our YouTube channel and watching the first couple introductory videos. It is coming. I apologize that the last couple of weeks has just been absolute chaos. We're still building rifles, of course, but we've had a lot of distractions with trying to go with plan B with the shooting school and getting everything organized to get the building up. And so it's been a lot of work, and it looks like the building is going to be up on grounds Monday or Tuesday, week before the school. So we're really excited that we have that to fall back on if the conference rooms are still unavailable when the classes start on May 11th. So looking forward to having our first long-range shooting school kickoff of the year. May 11th is the first date. So looking forward to having these guys here and getting the shooting season kicked off and started. So we will have those videos coming, and we're actually probably doing a lot of it there at the range. And so you'll get a chance to see some of the building that's in the work in progress, and we'll do some of the video work from there. So stick around. Please keep an eye out. Probably have some stuff up here. I'm going to say in about 3 weeks yet till we get the building finished up and get the first round of schools under our belt. And then we'll be back to hopefully some type of normalcy, not just with the business and the school, but even with all this coronavirus distraction that is affecting every part of our lives. Anyway, I hope everybody out there is well. I hope everybody's healthy. We're really thinking that here in Pennsylvania, we're about ready to come back to some normalcy. I know everybody that I know is about ready to go crazy. Everybody's been on lockdown since about March 13th when the school shut down. So it's about time for this stuff to end and us get back to business as normal. We had a friend of ours that owns a business out towards Pittsburgh give us a call, and he owns a construction company, and he said, they're thinking that it's business as usual. He's out there trying to buy as much stuff as he can to support all the other companies and try to help out. And so we're doing the same. We're trying to buy extra parts. We're trying to buy extra pieces when we can to try to support everybody who makes a lot of the parts and pieces that we use and build here. And so we always encourage you guys to do the same. If you have a local business you do a business with, we're trying to help. And, if we can order a couple extra parts and that helps them, stay afloat or keep them in the green for a while longer, that's just what we're doing. So it was good to hear him say that because we've been doing the same thing. And I think there's a lot of people doing that. I know in the restaurant industry, there's a lot of patrons that are just, trying their best to support all the local businesses that they're not just friends with, but utilize a lot and just don't want to see them go away. So kudos to all the people out there that are making that happen as well. So that about wraps it up for this podcast. Looking forward to the shooting season kicking off. If any of y'all have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Our email here is contact@wolfprecision.net. I also want to ask and encourage anyone listening, if they would like to, please go over to iTunes and leave us a nice review or thumbs up. That helps in our standings. We are now broken into the top 200 across the nation. And so the podcast is really taking off well, and it's really a big part of us saying thank you to you guys for making that possible. But if you don't mind popping on over there or any of the stations that you're listening to the podcast on and leaving us a positive review, it really does help us to reach new listeners and people who would maybe enjoy this content. So thank you guys for joining us. I really appreciate it. My name is Jamie Dotson. I'm your host, and you are listening to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building Podcast.